Today we are talking about the very, very, very common question, how's your day been? So if you're thinking about this question and you're thinking, wait, what is that question even asking? Don't worry, today we are going to be talking all about it. This is probably one of the most common questions you are going to be asked besides, how are you? Right? And this is a question that you will hear in situations ranging from interacting with your coworkers, your colleagues, or even your classmates, or you'll hear it when you're interacting with a salesperson, you're inside a store, maybe a stranger that you're waiting at the bus stop with or something like that. You could also use this question when you check in with your friends on the phone, or perhaps your partner, or maybe your kids, because you're wanting to know how their day has been. Like last episode where we talked about the question, what have you been up to? The question, how's your day been, tends to confuse non-native English speakers because the question is more cultural than grammatical. The grammar is also a little confusing if you have trouble with the present perfect, but people tend to get confused by the way that the question is formed. And what I really want you to understand is what we mean by the question, how's your day been? So like I said, we ask this question, how's your day been, in a couple of situations, and your response is going to vary based on the situation. That's something I really want you to keep in mind as we talk about all these different conversation questions. The situational response is what you're trying to think about. Think about the person you're interacting with, what they're expecting to hear from you, and what you feel like sharing in that moment. So before we get started dissecting what this question is asking and how to answer it, as well as all the variations, let's talk about the stress and intonation. Can't forget that. Stress and intonation is super clear. Let's say that again. Stress and intonation is super important to being able to communicate what you really want to hear from the other person, for making sure the person knows you truly, or inviting them to give a response. So the question would be, how's your day been? How's your day been? We are contracting that how and has together, and it sounds how's. How's your day been? And the stress is going to be on day. So I hope you guys are saying it along with me. How's your day been? How's your day been? You're inviting the other person to share a little bit about themselves. So as we start to look at the most typical answers to this question, let's talk about why this question is so important. In fact, the reason I decided to focus on this question today is that this is a question I often encourage people who are interacting in professional environments, in your workplace, in your office, to ask your coworkers. It's more interesting than how are you? Because how are you just kind of has a standard response, like good, not much, nothing else, nothing to share. So how are you isn't a particularly engaging question. But the reason we ask a question like how's your day been is that we're inviting the other person to share as little or as much as you want. How's your day been is an example of an open-ended question. An open-ended question means you're basically giving the power of the conversation to the person who's asking, right? Or to the person that's answering. So when we ask open-ended questions, we give the power of the conversation to the person who's answering the question. We're inviting them to share as much or as little as they want. And this can vary based on the interaction, based on the person, based on how interested they are in engaging in a conversation. So how's your day been is an invitation to hear how the person's day has been going throughout the day. So right now here in Boston, it is in the morning. So I probably wouldn't ask the question, how's your day been? Because we're just getting started. I would probably use a variation of the question. But this is a question you ask, sometime at lunch, after lunch, later in the day when you run into somebody in the office, in the coffee room, outside when you're taking a little break, something like that. You'd ask the question, how's your day been? To hear about what's happened until now. If the person is interested in responding to you and sharing more details about their day, they will take that invitation seriously if they know you or if they know that you're interested in hearing about them. So the person can respond based on whether they have anything to share or they don't want to share at all. This is a question I have definitely heard people ask me when I'm shopping in a store later on in the day. And a lot of times it's like when things are a little quiet in the store and the person wants to make a friendly connection, even if we don't know each other. So how's your day been? People will ask that in order to see how you're doing. Maybe they see you and you look a little stressed out. They may ask, how's your day been? Just show a little bit of, humanity, show some compassion for you and how you're doing. So it really, really depends on the situation. It depends on the context, and it depends on how much you want to share. Personally, I think this question is pretty common when you're at work, which is why I decided to talk about this question. You ask the question, how's your day been, in order to invite the person to share what kind of projects they've been working on, what they've been doing with their day. Maybe you have a project in common, or, if you're at school, university, college, you might have a class in common, so you can talk about how the day has been going. Like I said earlier, you may use this question to talk to your, child. You're checking with your child, your partner, your husband, your wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe one of your best friends, and you call them, later on in the day, and you want to know how they're doing. You're genuinely inviting them to share. How's your day been? So this question is pretty versatile, and I would definitely encourage you to understand what the question is asking so that you know how to respond. Okay, so we've talked about why this question is so important for people who are interacting in a lot of small talk situations or kind of catching up situations. So how do you respond to this question? I said that this is an open-ended question, which means if somebody asks you the question, how's your day been, you're able to respond with as much or as little information as you want. So that's something I definitely want you to think about. How much information do you want to share with this person? If you want to have a deeper conversation with them, it's your responsibility to share some details that they can respond to. If you're not interested, you don't know this person, you're not feeling pretty friendly, you're in a bad mood or something like that, then you could just say, oh, it's been fine, right? Not really much of a response. It doesn't give the other person anything to work with. That is a subtle cue to the other person that you're not interested in talking to them. When you have that kind of clipped, short response, it tells them, okay, this is not the moment for us to engage, for us to connect, for us to start to get to know each other or share or swap stories or something like that. So it's okay to respond, oh yeah, it's been good. But it's telling the other person that you're not interested in going deeper into the conversation. If you are asked the question, how's your day been, with your colleague or coworker, and you want to share a little more information with them, you could say, oh, wow, I've been really engaged on this new project. It's really interesting, but it's quite challenging. It's taking me longer than I want. That gives you a chance to, kind of swap stories about what it's like to work on your projects. Maybe they can give you some advice or some suggestions. Maybe if somebody, like a friend, is checking in on you and they say, how's your day been? You can say, things aren't going as well as I want them to. It's been kind of a stressful day. They can give you some sort of support. So I hope you understand that your response to this question will guide whether or not the person is going to share or ask you more questions, whether they're going to keep trying to get to know you or trying to hear more about what you are working on, what you're doing, what you're sharing. So your response is, like I said, you're in control. When you are responding to this question, how's your day been? You're able to decide how much or how little you want to share. So for those of you who are interested in better conversations in English, which I hope you guys are if you're watching this live video, but this is something I want you to really think about. It's not about having, perfect pronunciation, asking the best question, having a list of 18 million questions, even though that is fun and I do have a long list of questions. It's about being able to use the questions you're asked in order to respond with people and find a way to connect with them, find a way to get along with them, find a way to invite them to give you some advice or invite them to connect with you. You are the one with the power when somebody asks this question. And it's a subtle thing. It may not seem super obvious when you see that the question's kind of basic, but it's a real opportunity to have a better conversation in English. So I hope you're getting a sense of how this question can be asked and answered. It is a question that I would expect to hear. So I would definitely love to hear from you guys if people have asked you this question, if you found it confusing, you weren't entirely sure, if this helps you feel a little more confident. So now I would love to move on to talking about other variations on the question. Like I said in just a moment ago, it's early here in the United States, here in Boston. It's even earlier if we go to California. So it would be weird to ask how's your day been before noon, basically. So there are other variations on this question that you'll hear people ask. How's your day been is later on in the day. I would say like after lunch, afternoon, after lunch, and through the rest of the day, but usually around late afternoon. So let's look at some variations of this question so that you can kind of predict what their person is trying to hear when you hear these questions. Okay, so some variations on these questions. This is one that's good about any time in the day. How's your day going? How's your day going? In this case, we would probably still stress day, but you'd still hear going. How's your day going? How's your day going? When somebody asks you, how's your day going? That could be at this time in the day. They're just trying to find out, like, are you having a good day? Are you in a good mood? Are you not in a good mood? So, how's your day going is a question you'll probably hear people that you interact with, like your colleagues and coworkers, ask you about your day. You may hear it with strangers in the street or strangers in a store. How's your day going? Because they're just trying to invite you to share a little more. It's more interesting, more friendly than asking, how are you? Which is just not even really a question most of the time. Okay, another question that you'll sometimes hear is, how's the day going? They're still asking, how's your day going when they say, how's the day going? But they're basically kind of checking in with your entire day. This is probably more common like at work or somewhere where you have kind of a long day, you're doing a lot of things. Maybe, think about doctors when they're interacting, how's the day going? They're not asking specifically, how are you feeling, like your day? They're asking like your day of work. So how's the day going? Maybe if you're checking in with someone like a professor or a teacher who has several classes in the day, they may say, how's your day? How's the day going? It's just a more neutral question, feels less pointed, but they're asking about like kind of like your plans for the day and how's the day going. Another example of the questions you can ask is, how's your day so far, right? So this is something we would definitely ask in a situation like now where it's early in the day, probably been working, 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on when your day starts. So how's your day going so far? How's your day going so far? So that's how I would ask the question. How's your day going so far? So I'm asking so far in order to hear what's been going on in your day until now, because at times, the day isn't over yet. Maybe you have a really long day. Maybe, your life is really busy and you have a lot of, stuff going on. So it's until now, right? How's your day going so far? They're inviting you to share what's been going on with your day until the current moment. So that's a very similar question. How's your day so far? And that would be a question I would ask in a situation like this where it's still early in the day. So I can ask you, how's your day going so far? Because it's early, but you still are inviting the person to share. Because, you could have a bad day from the start of the day, have a terrible commute or something like that, a really stressful meeting at 9 a.m. and you may appreciate someone checking in with you at, 11:30 in the morning. Okay, here are some other variations of this question. How's your day been going? So I want to talk about this question, comparing it with how's your day been? How's your day been going? As you can hear in both of these questions, we have the present perfect in the first version, how's your day been? And how's your day been going? The reason we would ask been going is that the day is still happening right now. The questions are pretty much the same, but somebody might be acknowledging that the day is still ongoing. Maybe it's a long day. That the person still has many more hours of work or, I don't know, school, whatever it is. Like, it's a way of acknowledging that the day is still ongoing, that we're in the middle of the day and there's still more to come. So how's your day been going? It's an invitation to hear a little bit more about the person's day, just like the previous example. It's something you would ask later on in the day, but maybe like midday, lunchtime, and after lunch. Similar question, how's your day been going so far, right? How's your day been going so far? It's the same thing, but you're basically saying, I know that your day isn't over yet, so how's your day been going so far? We're going all the way up until right now. Okay, so how's your day been going? How's your day been going so far? So many variations on this question, very similar answers. So like I mentioned just a moment ago, this is something that may change. The question may change based on the time of day. So I want you to understand the most appropriate situations where you can ask the question. So like I said, in Boston, it is still the morning. And so I would ask something like, how's your morning been? How's your morning been? So you can definitely ask me this question, how's your morning been? This is more common when we are in the morning and you're acknowledging that the day has just started, but maybe you have a busy morning. Some people start work at 7, 8 in the morning, so they may have had a busy morning. So you can ask, how's your morning been? By being specific, asking about today, the morning, what's going on today, right now. And another similar question is, how's your night been? How's your night been? This is an interesting question, and that's why I want to include this as a variation, because it's a little bit different than all of the previous examples. So, how's your night been is a question you may like. Let's talk about what you do at night. Most people, like some people do work at night, like doctors, security people, people who work in factories, people who have to, get up in the middle of the night to bake bread and things like that. So, how's your night been might be asking about the night if you're working there. But in most cases, the question, how's your night been, is going to be asked when you're out having a night on the town, right? You may be going to some bars or some clubs, going dancing, going out to dinner. Like we're talking Friday night, Saturday night, when people are going out and hanging out with their friends, hanging out with their partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, trying to meet new people, whatever it is. So how's your night been is a question that people will ask you on a Friday or Saturday night in order to hear if you've been having a fun time on the night. You may hear this midweek as well, but just because most people in the United States go out on Friday and Saturday night rather than every single night, unless you live in New York where it's all the time. But, you could hear it midweek, but I think it would be more common to ask it on a weekend when there's more people, like, how's your night been? So somebody is inviting you to share if you've been having a fun evening, if you've been doing fun things, enjoying your time with your friends, enjoying the restaurant, the bar, the club, or something like that. So you'll hear, the waiters, waitresses, servers, bartenders might ask that question. They'll ask it to each other, if they're asking, how's your night been? Because in the United States, there's a lot of tipping. So people will ask you, how's your night been? Have you made money? Like servers at a restaurant, have people been tipping you well? So people ask, how's your night been? People will ask this question. Yeah, the bartenders will ask it to their clients. People will ask it to the bartenders. It's just a friendly way to hear about how the particular night has gone. And so it's kind of like, how's your day been? But it's only in this particular situation, and it invites people to share, how much fun they're having. If it's somebody who's asking you who it's not your job, you're not working, and you're having fun, people will ask, how's your night been? In order to hear a little more about your day. So it's a very friendly way to make small talk with a stranger. If you're at a bar or club or something like that, how's your night been? Like they're asking to hear, like, if you're having a fun day. So instead of saying like, are you having fun, which is kind of boring, people say, how's your night been? Because it invites you to decide whether you want to engage in the conversation. It's a very neutral, friendly question that you can use in order to learn more about people. So it's kind of a fun variation to the question. Okay. All right. So the other variations I want to talk about are, how's your week or your weekend been, right? So we've talked all about how's your day been, because that's the main question we're focusing on. But you could ask, how's your week been? If you see somebody later on in the week, let's say like Thursday or Friday or something like that, you may ask, how's your week been? Because you want to check in with how the rest of the week has been, especially if you don't talk to them every day, or, you see them once a week or twice a week, you may want to check in and see how things are going. Something I didn't mention earlier is that we would often ask that question. Like bosses will ask that to their employees. They'll ask them like, how's your day been? How's your week been? So you'll hear people ask, to kind of get an update on information about the week. If they ask, how's your week been? They may be interested in hearing like, what's your update on the projects that we've been working on? Or I know you had a meeting. It's a way of inviting the person to share. Like instead of saying, how'd that meeting go? Or how'd that important presentation go? You can say, how's the week been? You're able to invite the other person to share. Like, how has their week gone according to them? They're able to share based on the information. So that's something people will ask. How's your weekend been? Just to remind you what question we're working with. How's your weekend been? People will ask that, say it's Saturday or Sunday, like after the weekend starts. For some people, it starts Thursday night. For other people, it starts Friday night mostly. And we're talking here in the United States. And so people might ask on Thursday or Sunday, Saturday or Sunday. They may ask, how's your weekend been? Because the weekend is still in process. It's the same as how's your day been, but they're talking about a bigger period of time. How's your weekend been? It's a very neutral, general question to invite the person to share. Maybe they haven't done anything, and so they might just say, yeah, good, fine, it's no problem. Or they might say, hey, I went to this really cool movie yesterday, and tomorrow I'm going to go for a walk in the park with my friend. I'm having a great weekend. They can share as much or as little information as they want. You'll hear people ask, how's your weekend been? if they're working on the weekend, you might ask like a salesperson who works weekends to say like, oh, how's your weekend been? Because they've been working, and maybe they'll talk about their work or something like that. Or you may hear people ask that question like, yeah, how's your weekend been? If they're bartenders, servers who work on the weekend. So they might ask about that. They may ask their customers, or the customers may ask them. So I just want you to be prepared for situations where people ask these questions. Okay, and the last variation we're talking about now is oops, I forgot to show it to you. The next variation is how's your summer or year been going, right? And so this is, I would say, like a little bit less common, but it's something you will occasionally hear, so I want you to be prepared for that. So how's your summer been going? How's your summer been going? This is common, among people who may have the summers off, like say you're, in school, college, university, grad school, law school, any sort of higher education program, or you're a professor. Someone may ask you, how's your summer been going? Because you have a summer break and you may be traveling or something like that. Teachers, right, have the summers off, so they often travel or try to do other things. We don't usually ask this question with other seasons. It's just because summer is kind of, special because it's finally warm enough to be outside all the time and enjoy the sunshine. So people ask, how's your summer been going? And so, that's what your opportunity to share kind of highlights of what's been going on in the summer, talk about how you feel, talk about how you're doing. And so sometimes you'll hear it. I don't think it's that common, but I wanted to give you an option to understand that. And the last one we're going to look at is, how's your year been going, right? How's your year been going? So this is kind of a question that I feel like would be reasonable to ask right about now when we're talking. It's now April. If you're watching this, around the time we're recording it, it's April. So you've had a few months of the year to get started. So people may want to hear, how's your year been going? Like a lot of people have New Year's resolutions. They make plans in January. So a lot of times by, March, April, May, we check in, see how things are going. So people may ask, how's your year been going? Especially if they don't talk to each other very often. You wouldn't probably run into a coworker that you see every day and say, how's your year been going? Like, that's kind of weird. But it would be a question that you ask, your friend if you call them or email them every once in a while. You might say, like, how's your year been going? How's 2018 been going, right? That's a pretty common way to check in with the person and find out, how their year has been going. All right, so that was a lot of variations, but I just think it's such a useful question to understand and to be able to ask. So now we're going to talk about how to turn the question around. We're going to talk about how's your day been going, right? So like I said in my video on how to turn the question around, it's common for us to repeat a question back to someone by shifting the stress. So in this case, we're going to shift the stress to how's your day been going? So this is your opportunity to, respond after you've given an answer. You're turning the question around, asking the person, what about you? How about you? And inviting them to respond. That's especially good if someone asks you question after question, then you can say, oh, how's your day been going? In order to show a more engagement, more interest, show interest in the other person. It's incredibly important when you want to connect in conversations with people. So how's your day been going? And this is definitely my invitation to you guys. We're going to chat in just a moment, but I want to know, how's your day been going? And just a reminder, if you haven't already downloaded my free guide to making more interesting small talk in English, I have 17 more questions, more neutral questions that you can ask and answer. I talk about how to turn these questions into deeper conversations. You can download that guide at englishwithkim.com/smalltalkguide. So I just like to remind you, I love having you here on the YouTube channel, but there's even more resources through my email community. So definitely, if you would like to sign up for this free small talk guide, I encourage you to do so. It enables me to kind of organize the order in which you watch the videos so that it makes sense. So I would love to have you be part of the email community, and that's at englishwithkim.com/smalltalkguide. Just a reminder, if you like this video, please hit like and share. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like I said at the beginning, that really is the best way to support me and to help me continue to make these live videos if you find them helpful. let's turn this question around. We're going to turn the question around, and I would love to hear how's your day been going, especially for those of you who have had a full day. Some of you are here in different time zones. So let's turn the questions around and let's chat, guys. Any questions? Let's chat. And just a reminder, if you are watching the replay, I would love it if you would leave a comment in order to share how your day's been going. This is still an invitation, even if you are, not watching live here and able to chat with me. Okay. Been a long time since you saw the person, but like I said at the beginning, this question, how's your day been, is best when you are trying to catch up with somebody who you see somewhat regularly. It doesn't have to be every day, but it's somebody you see somewhat regularly. You want to hear how they're doing. So initially, this question is a question I suggested for people who are trying to make small talk at work. A lot of my clients feel a little overwhelmed when they are working, usually living in the United States, working with mostly Americans. Of course, we have tons of people from other countries too. But mostly Americans, and they're like, what do I say to my coworkers? So that's when I initially started teaching this question, how's your day been? It's more inviting than asking, how are you? And which is basically a question that most people don't feel like they're being invited to share information. So how's your day been really is giving the person the opportunity to share a lot or a little, depending on how much they want to engage with you. So it's, like I said, it's really a great way to be able to invite the other person to share more or less information. Maybe they don't feel like talking, so they'll give you that signal with their response. A lot of having better conversations in English is being able to read the signals of the other people. So being able to understand whether they want to engage with you, whether they are not interested in engaging with you. So you have to be able to pay attention to how the person responds. And like I've said in previous videos, I don't remember which video, but I've said it before, a lot of times when we're non-native speakers of a language, we feel it's almost like there's more responsibility on us to prove that we speak fluently and we feel comfortable in the conversation. Some people are super friendly, Americans are in general friendly, but not everyone's friendly. But if they're not sure if you understand them, if they're not sure if you follow, they may not try to ask you more complex questions. But when you ask a question like, how's your day been? Or how's your day been going? Or how's your morning been going? That's going to show to them you have a cultural understanding of questions that we ask. And so they're going to be more likely to engage. Or if they kind of test you with how's your day been? And you respond with more than good. Like you say, actually I've been having a great day. I got some good news this morning, so I'm here celebrating. Something like that. That's going to encourage the other person to keep talking with you because they feel like you understand what the question is asking. So they're going to share more information so that you can have that kind of interaction. So that's just something to keep in mind. The reason we talk about simple sounding questions is that if your answer is good, that's going to invite you to continue to have a conversation with the person. Okay. If you're watching the replay, don't worry. I appreciate you watching the replay. I would love it if you would comment below and share how's your day been, especially because I know a lot of people will be watching this at the end of their workday or maybe tomorrow morning if they're sleeping right now. So I would love to hear how's your day been? How's your morning been? If you think of other questions you'd like me to answer in future live streams, be sure to comment with those below. I have a long list of questions I want to talk about, but I love being able to involve you guys in deciding what to talk about with these series. Once again, I'm Kim from EnglishWithKim.com. I'm your guide to the essential conversation skills you need to sound more natural in English. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. Have a good one. Goodbye.